Hi, welcome to our channel. My name is Ferdinand, and today we are tackling a tough but crucial question in a job interview. How much do you want to earn? We'll explore the bad, the good, and the excellent responses. By the end of this video, you'll be able to develop a strategy to navigate this question confidently. Let's dive in. Discussing salary expectations can be one of the most nerve-wracking experiences for most professionals, but it shouldn't be so. Let's start by exploring why employers ask that question. Employers usually ask questions about salary expectation for two reasons. One is to check if your expectations align with their own budget for that position. The second reason is to check and gauge your understanding of your value in the marketplace. In other words, they want to check how much you think you are worth, because worth is relative to value, isn't it? So how should you respond? We'll explore the bad, the good, and the excellent ways of responding. First, let's look at some bad responses. Bad responses are those responses that can hurt your chances of getting that job or sabotage your chances of landing that role. The first bad response is when you're too vague and indecisive. For example, I've heard professionals respond to that question with, anything you think is fair. I'm sure you have a structure. Please place me within your structure based on what you consider to be fair. Now, why is that bad? It is bad because, first of all, it shows a lack of self-confidence. It also shows a lack of an understanding of your real worth. And for roles that require decisiveness, that can be a red flag. For instance, in sales roles that require decisiveness, you can't be vague in your responses to customer inquiries, for instance, about pricing. The second bad response is when you give a single fixed price or fixed salary expectation. For instance, when without asking some questions, you just respond with, I want to earn $50,000 per annum. Now, why is that wrong? It's a bad response because, number one, you can't be underpricing yourself. Number two, you can't be overpricing yourself. And number three, you've not demonstrated the things that you've put into consideration before arriving at that salary expectation. When we get to the good and excellent ways of responding, I'll show you the questions that you should ask before you even mention the salary expectation. The third bad response is when your response shows that you're unrealistic. For instance, responding with, I want to earn $100,000 for an entry-level position. Again, that shows that you lack awareness about the prevailing market rate. It also shows that you don't know what the zone of possible agreement is. And that's a signpost that you lack research skills and analytical skills. Because if you have conducted your research and analyzed the industry that you're applying for, you would have known what the range of expectation and what is possible within that industry. Let's now turn to good responses. These are responses that show that you've done your homework and that you're realistic in your expectations. Number one, good response is providing a range based on research. So you can respond to that question with, based on my research about the industry and this role, I would expect a salary range of between 50,000 US dollars and 62,000 US dollars. Now, why is that a good response? It's a good response because it shows that you've conducted a research. It also shows that you've left room for negotiation. The second good response is when you throw the question back to the interviewer. For instance, when you say, before I give you my salary expectation, I'd like to know what this job entails. I'd like to know my responsibilities. I'd like to know if there are bonuses or commissions based on performance. How many days vacation would I have? This shows that, especially for sales roles, it shows that you want to demand a salary based on the value you are going to bring to the table. It also shows that it's not just the paycheck at the end of the month that you're interested in. You also want a compensation that will be based on your being able and willing to go the extra mile to deliver beyond the job description. So before you give a figure, ask questions about the role, the responsibility, the expectation, other sources of remuneration beyond the salary. Finally, let's look at the excellent responses. These are responses that show, number one, your preparedness. Number two, that you've conducted a research. Number three, that you have a sense of self-worth, you know your value. Number four, that you're a strategic thinker. And number five, that you understand that question. You see, when you go for a job interview and they ask you, how much do you want to earn? That question simply means, what do you think you are worth? It means, what value are you bringing to the table? And there are three dimensions of value. The first one is cost. In other words, what would it cost you? What would it take you to deliver on expectations? Second variable is worth. What are you bringing to the table? What worth would you add? What value would you add? Then number three is based on what it will cost you to deliver and the value you're bringing to the table, your worth. This is how much you want to earn. In other words, this is the price the company should pay for your services. Once you have that understanding, it means that when you're asked that question, the first thing you should do is to establish the cost. And that means that you ask, if it's a sales role, for instance, that you ask, what will be my target? That you ask, how many people will be in my team? That you ask, how well is that product or service currently doing in the market? That you ask, what was your turnover last year? That you ask, what kind of logistics will be made available? What are my roles? What are my responsibilities? What are my expectations? Then you go to commission, compensation. If my target is $1 billion, if I am willing and able to do $2 billion, can we negotiate my salary based on that rather than based on the position you advertised for? Because, for instance, they could have advertised for assistant manager position, and the expectation for that position is $500,000 as sales goal or revenue goal. So if you ask, if I can do $1 million, can you pay me based on the value I am bringing to the table and not based on the title of the position you advertised for. Now, on the basis of their responses to those your questions, you will now say, okay, based on research and based on your answers to my questions, I am willing to take, you now give a range. It's called zone of possible agreement. That's a range between the minimum acceptable to you and the maximum achievable. So on the basis of all of this, I am willing to accept a salary of between 55,000 US dollars and 87,000 US dollars per annum. When they express, as most interviewers would, their concern about that range, you ask them, how much are you willing to pay? When they give you a figure, then ask them the question, if I offer that you graduate my salary based on my performance, based on agreed timelines and milestones, can you pay me XYZ? So for instance, you can say, for the first 3 months, I am willing to accept $60,000. If I deliver beyond expectation, for the next 3 months, can we increase salary to 66,000? And then upon confirmation, I will now earn 72,000. So that gives room for the interviewer, for the company, to have some comfort that the increase in salary will be based on performance. It's also important, again, for a sales role, for instance, that you ask questions around the ratio of fixed salary to performance-based bonuses or commissions. So if they say to you that they will pay you $55,000 per annum and a commission of 3%, ask them, can I ask for a commission of 10% even if you reduce my take-home, guaranteed take-home? What that demonstrates is that you want to earn based on performance. The second way of responding to that question is to respond in a way that demonstrates or reminds them of the key achievements on your CV. So when they ask you how much you want to earn, start by saying that in my previous role, where I earned XYZ, I delivered ABC. In the role before that, where I earned CDB, I delivered OMP. Therefore, based on what I am expected to deliver now, and on the reputation of your company in the industry, I am willing to accept between this and this. Always give a range. When it now comes to negotiating that salary, make sure that you ask for something in return for every concession that you want to make. It doesn't matter if what you're asking for is important to you or not. For instance, when they ask you to come down on your salary expectation, ask them what kind of official car would come with this role. Ask them, how many days vacation would I have? If, for instance, they say 28 days as your vacation, ask, is it 28 calendar days or would it be 28 working days? If they say it's 28 calendar days, say to them, I am willing to come down on my salary expectation if we can make it 28 working days. Now, that shows that you value your time. It doesn't matter whether you need the extra days or not. Now, whether they accept that or not, it means that you've made a concession, having not gotten what you wanted. And after making a lot of demands that they don't honor and you stay calm down, it will get to the point where you say to them, I've asked for increase in my vacation days, which you declined. I asked that the official car should be a take-home car, but you've insisted that I must park it in the office at the close of work. I've asked for that you sponsor vacation for me and my family. We've only said that you take care of my own vacation. Now, so I've made XYZ concessions. You haven't made any concession. Now that becomes a blackmail in code in your making your final demand for your salary, of your salary. So here are my final tips for you. Number one, always remember that that question is a question about value. That question simply means, what are you bringing to the table and what do you want to earn on the basis of what you're bringing to the table? Number two, avoid being vague and overly rigid. Number three, show that you've conducted enough research. Number four, always leave that interviewer or the interviewers remembering that you are a value carrier. And that's why it's important that you highlight your achievements over the years, even when you're negotiating salary. And then remember to practice very well before you go for any job interview. And then finally, the best time to look for a new job is when you're comfortable with your current job. When you go for a job interview to negotiate salary, when you've lost your job or you're unhappy with your job, you're not going to negotiate confidently. You'll be desperate to get another job, and consequently, you may leave money on the table as you accept that role. And that eventually breeds frustration in the work environment. Okay, so I hope you got value from this video. If you did, please remember to give us the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and your contacts, and please leave your comments at the comment section with your questions and your feedback. Thank you, and this is wishing you that dream job of yours. Bye.